Speaker, to be followed by Jenny Gilwood. Ms Speaker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. An advantage of speaking on the second day of the programme for government is the time to reflect not just on the statement made by the First Minister, but also on the wider policy document that accompanies it. As the First Minister set out yesterday, there is a number of justice bills which are being brought forward, but there is also a number of justice issues, whilst not needing legislation, do still need our attention. As Scottish Labour's Justice spokesperson, I will work constructively with my colleagues from all parties where our interests and views align. Looking at the programme for government, there is scope for consensus to be reached in some areas. The Contract Third-Party Rights Bill, as well as the Expenses and Funding of Civil Litigation Bill, are two welcome pieces of legislation recommended by the Scottish Law Commission, and we will work with the Government on their delivery. The Limitation Childhood Abuse Bill was announced yesterday, and the child abuse inquiry is challenging and it does need to secure the confidence of victims. The forthcoming legislation to remove the limitation period for child abuse survivors is important and very necessary, and I welcome the intention to introduce this bill in the year ahead. But there will still be debate on this as we progress, but we must ensure that we deliver justice for these victims. I'd like to echo Kezia Dugdale's remarks yesterday regarding the Government's intention to introduce a domestic abuse law bill. This is a bill which I and my party very much welcome. This week we saw the first indication of the impact that Clare's Law is having. That almost 1,000 Scots felt the need to check their partner's history, and 42% of them received information about a potentially dangerous partner, indicates that much more needs to be done to tackle domestic abuse in Scotland. And time has been set aside next week, I understand, to discuss domestic abuse in greater detail. So this afternoon I'd like to focus on two areas in particular, on the British Transport Police and Police Scotland. Firstly, I'd like to raise a decision taken by British Transport Police and announced on Friday to issue officers in Scotland with tasers. Recently we saw the high-profile death of the former football player Dalian Atkinson in England through a taser. Tasers, while classified as non-lethal, are still potentially deadly pieces of equipment, and their deployment and usage should not be taken lightly. There is legitimate public concern about the routine deployment of armed police officers, and while the Justice Secretary gave a statement on the increase in armed officers, I am disappointed that no such scrutiny has been applied to this announcement around tasers. It is right that officers are able to respond appropriately and that public safety is paramount, but we shouldn't allow this to take place without any proper parliamentary scrutiny. Presiding Officer, there was also the announcement of the Railway Policing Bill, and we have seen concerns already raised in the Chamber, but we've seen concerns from ASLEF, from RMT and from the British Transport Police officers about the Government's intentions. The Smith Commission did agree that the functions of the British Transport Police should be devolved with accountability to the Scottish Parliament and to the Government. What was not agreed was that British Transport Police should be scrapped and swallowed up by Police Scotland, a move which centralises, it risks losing valuable expertise, and it erodes the cross-border nature of the Transport Police. We have a British Transport Police at the moment that works well and serves us well in Scotland, but now we have significant concerns about its future and very little assurances from the Government about future staffing and service levels. The consultation that was recently held by the Government was solely focused on how the British Transport Police should be integrated into Police Scotland. Only one model was presented in the consultation, but the Government should now listen to those who know the service best and keep the independence of the British Transport Police. Presiding Officer, this summer has also seen a number of reports from rank-and-file police officers about the strain being put on the service. This includes a series of astonishing tweets over the summer from the Scottish Police Federation. And according to servant officers, there has been a number of incidents and decisions taken where the main objective appears to be saving money rather than ensuring that our communities are safe. This includes claims that people who should be held in custody are being released to avoid officers staying on to complete the case and incur overtime, that officers are being told not to be proactive and investigate drug dealers, and officers who are investigating a disturbance denied the request for a police dog as it would send the unit officer into overtime. We even had the ridiculous stories of officers claiming they were told not to use tea or hand towels because it would cost money to wash and clean them, and also officers shopping in charity shops to purchase equipment. This was all from the Federation over the summer. Now, one incident may be passed off as isolated. However, when a pattern emerges like this, serious questions have to be asked. And the FM yesterday claimed that they were protecting the police budget. But this is a government that is standing still while a force is at risk of going backwards. In the last Parliament, we witnessed the closure of police front desks and the shutting of local courts, and the feeling from many that policing in Scotland was no longer local. There are reports of police divisions regularly sitting at under operational base levels, particularly in the east and in our rural areas, and community officers are often under-resourced. We have the opportunity through the budget and through the strategic police priorities to change this. We need greater leadership from the Government, from the SPA and from Police Scotland on the big challenges facing policing. Now, the Government like to highlight that crime was at a 40-year low, yet according to recent figures, only 38% of the crime was reported in Scotland, only 58% of the public have confidence in the police, and only 63% of those reported but were satisfied with how their crimes were handled. Presiding Officer, we can and we must do better in this session when it comes to our police force.
Thank you very much, Ms Baker.